Hi, folks. Good morning. So quick introduction. I'm Jeff Reed. I run essentially the enterprise networking business here at Cisco. And I want to talk almost in a similar idea as Amin talked about in terms of big changes that are happening in networking, but actually starting off on the other end of the network. So he talked about what's going on in the compute and data center world. I'm the edge of the network guy. So, how are we using the network to connect people, to connect things, et cetera, and how's that changing? And it's actually a really interesting time for us. And fundamentally, I see two big trends that are impacting us in terms of this change and kind of what we can do. One is the ability for the network to become really critical in terms of the core operations of a business. So how the network can fundamentally impact the success or failure of a company. And two, similar to the data center, there are some huge changes in terms of how the network itself operates. And a lot of R&D, a lot of new technologies come into the fore, and I think this will allow us to be more and more successful in terms of creating that business value. So what I want to talk to you is the journey that I see us taking together as the network evolves here. And the goal is really this idea around digitization. How can IT more effectively impact the company's business? And what do we need to do at the network layer, both from a vendor perspective, from a customer perspective, to make that successful? So when we talk about digitization, we really think of three key things that make up the digitization value proposition. So first is around simplifying and automating processes. Look, it's pretty simple. How can you use IT to make the business run faster, more agile, et cetera? The second one is around empowering the workforce and really changing the way that we actually prosecute business within a company. How we collaborate, how we actually attract and retain talent are all key things that we need to do effectively with respect to digitization. And the third one, and I think it's probably the most impactful one, is how technology is changing the way that we interact with our customers, with our students, with our patients, and really changing that experience for the users of our goods and services, as well as how do we use technology to understand more about them. So it's not just about how they benefit from technology, it's about how technology can better allow us to understand what they're doing, what they're thinking, how they're using our products and services. So those are the things that we want to do in terms of kind of enabling the digital business through the network. Now, so what does the network need to do to actually make these things happen? And let me tell a little story to give some perspective here. So I'm the exec sponsor at Cisco for a large healthcare company in the U.S. So they own a large chain of hospitals. I was out there just a couple months ago meeting with the networking team, and they were saying that there's three things that they're being asked to do to help the core line of business of the hospital. So first is actually getting all the clinical applications onto smartphones. And it was interesting. You think about that. I was thinking, okay, you want to make it easier, make the kind of the transactions and medical records easier to find, et cetera. That was part of it. But a big piece of what they wanted to do in terms of this was they wanted to make the experience for the doctors better. Because they're essentially in a talent war for doctors. I didn't know this, but the doctors will work at multiple hospitals within the same week or even within the same day. And so what they want to do is they want to create the best experience for doctors to come work at their hospital and basically gain preference in terms of being able to lure and attract the best talent. The second thing that they were being asked to do was help solve a problem the hospital had in terms of moving patients through the emergency room. So the emergency room, I don't know, probably a lot of folks in the room have had a time when you've gone to the emergency room and you've spent a long time waiting in the emergency room. I had one of these recently, unfortunately. And a big problem is the emergency room, what they want to do is they want to take patients, get them out of the emergency room up into the hospital beds if they're going to be admitted. But the hospital doesn't have good visibility to when beds are available. And it turns out that if you're working on a hospital ward, you might not always want to say when there's a bed available because it's going to create more work for you. So what we're doing is we're doing a pilot with them. We're using the access points and the location information that we have from their wireless network to understand where their cleaning groups, basically the cleaning people, are spending time. When they spend time in a room, we know that then that room is going to be available for a patient to be admitted there. and we're actually using that information to go and tell the emergency room, okay, we've got a free bed up in this ward on this wing in the hospital. You can go ahead and move folks through. So we hope that together we can drastically improve the time it takes for folks to be processed through the emergency room. And then the third thing that they're being asked to do is this company's created an energy services team at the hospital. Their goal is to save millions of dollars a year in terms of reducing energy expense and consumption. So they're asking the networking team, hey, I want to get all the lighting controls, all the HVAC systems, et cetera, onto the network, pull that information back to us. We're going to come up with a set of best practices in terms of usage. We're going to push that out to our over 100 hospitals. We think we can save millions of dollars a year if we do this effectively. The challenge for the networking team, though, is how do I bring all these devices onto the network securely? I want to be able to do so. I don't want to have to build out a separate network to connect these devices. I want to converge it onto my IP network, but I need to do that very, very securely. So basically, bad guys can't come in through those systems. And so these are just three of the issues that this team is facing. And I see this over and over and over again. And to me, it's great. It allows us in the networking world, I think, to have a bigger and bigger impact on the core businesses that we support. And when I kind of boil it down, I see three things that we need to do better in networking to make this happen. So first is around simplicity and automation. How do we make the network faster? How do we make it simpler? I'll talk more about that in a bit. But hopefully, I think most of you guys probably get that. Second opportunity is that we can use the network to dramatically improve the security posture of our companies. And really look at this in two ways. One is, when I talked about the healthcare case, it's around using network segmentation, creating good barriers within your company in terms of how traffic and who can get access to what. But the second piece is the network has an amazing amount of information on how traffic moves across the network. And we call this network as a sensor. We've been working on how do we provide that information and basically expose that information up to security analytics capabilities so they can have a better idea of, are there advanced persistent threats already resident within their environment, and then take action on them. And then lastly, the network is moving. This is, I think, one of the big changes around going out of just connecting resource A to resource B to really providing other digital capabilities. That can be location-based services. That can be how we work and basically optimize collaboration applications, but enabling a set of these digital capabilities so that we can kind of change exactly how companies work. So these are some of the kind of what I see as the key things we need to do in the networking side to make good on this promise around digitalization. But don't just take my word for it. Why don't we listen to a few of our customers who talk about what they see as the opportunities in terms of looking at the network and the impact it can have on their business. Can we roll a video?
Our customers are challenged with two main things right now. One is moving to the cloud, and two is digitizing the branch experience.
If we could, we would love to talk to every single customer, but we can't do that. That's why we need very advanced analytics capability to understand customer behaviors and provide them a personalized experience.
The entire business is changing. So companies are rolling out applications much quicker, and today we cannot easily adapt. So we have to find a new way in networking and to make the networking itself more flexible and more quicker.
The business expects the network to react to the business. So the network has to be a lot more smarter, a lot more secure, a lot more simpler to provision, troubleshoot, and maintain in terms of cost.
A couple of years ago, everything was outsourced to full managed contracts, and the visibility was gone. And customers now looking to get this visibility back into their network.
We are an online pure play e-commerce company, and maintaining customer trust is paramount to us. And running a secure operation, a secure network is at the heart of it.
A network architecture can make or break the ability to satisfy the needs of the business.
The network has to be smarter, faster, and more programmable to deliver this new experience securely, and the best part, it has to be simple.
So this is what I hear over and over again when I talk to customers. And the great news is I think we have a huge opportunity in networking. The question is, how do we do a better job of prosecuting that opportunity? And what I've seen is, over the last 5 years, a whole bunch of new technology capabilities have come as part of our toolkit here. SDN, controllers, NFV, model-based interfaces, et cetera, are all creating an opportunity for us to kind of better harness and better deliver against the business needs for the network. But to date, I don't think we've been successful. And part of it is we've got all these different tools, but like they don't always come together in a single easy-to-use capability. And so it's kind of like, my sense is, like driving in a car. I don't know how many of you folks, I use Waze, my wife always uses Google Maps. Sometimes we're going to the same place, we'll route the same thing, and we'll go different directions. And I feel like that's kind of been the challenge we face on the networking side. We've had a lot of these capabilities. Some companies have been able to harness them because of the resources they have at their disposal, but I don't think it's been generally easy for folks to consume. And so that's what we're really trying to drive in terms of where we're taking our networking equipment and systems. And it's fundamentally changing how we actually build networks at Cisco and how we expect that you guys are to consume them. So we launched in March of this year the idea of what we call the Cisco Digital Network Architecture. And it's based on this idea that software is paramount. That really, it's what we're doing in the software layers, both at the network device and above, are really critical. And that we need to make it very open and extensible to allow you to have kind of whatever components you feel makes best sense for your environment will help, but also deliver a degree of simplicity and automation that we haven't been able to deliver in the past. So let me kind of walk through kind of the key components of this. It starts at the bottom, at the virtualization level. So this is kind of what we're doing at the core network OS. We've actually done a lot here, but one of the big pieces is basically decoupling the software from the hardware and allowing you to look at a network function and be able to run that wherever you want to within the environment, kind of at the best. And also give you freedom of choice on the hardware side. So we actually were just awarded Best of Interop for our enterprise NFV solution. It's out on the show floor. This is the idea about taking a branch environment that may today have a lot of physical network devices and moving that to a compute infrastructure plus a set of virtual network functions that run on top of that. All this can be orchestrated, it can be deployed. So if you want to turn up a new service, you can do that in hours or minutes instead of having to send someone on site, go have to kind of install new networking equipment at the branch. Like fundamentally changing the speed at which you can deliver new services to your business. Kind of above the OS and the device layer are two, what I think of as kind of pure capabilities we're delivering. So one's around automation. And look, this is controller. This idea here is, and Amin talked about just this, how do we move away from a box-by-box perspective to thinking of the network as a system and to abstracting all the underlying pieces of that infrastructure and essentially giving you a new interface at which you can drive the network. An example here is what we're doing in terms of quality of experience. So we've got rich quality of service capabilities in our infrastructure, but today you've got to go through, you've got to put new CLI commands on every box across your infrastructure in order to enable these. We're moving to a model whereby through the controller, you simply need to look at all the applications in your environment and classify them in 3 ways. Are they business relevant? Are they business irrelevant? Or are they what we call default? Sometimes they're irrelevant, sometimes they're relevant. And from there, the controller, the automation layer, programs the network in terms of enabling just that. So you don't have to worry about queue depths and class maps and all those things. You're operating at the business intent, what I want the network to deliver for me, for the business. And we think this is a huge leap forward in terms of the speed at which you can operate and the ease at which you can get what you want out of the network infrastructure. Its peers on the analytics side. In fact, this is an area where we still have a ways to go. But the idea is, how do I do a better job of pulling the data that the network has out? And that can serve me in terms of things like assurance. How do I know that I'm meeting the SLA requirements that I am? I can use data like location. So we have our connected mobile experience capability, uses the location information from the wireless to allow you to understand where are the clients in that environment. And we see over time, my vision is as these become absolute peers that connect. So, you have a set of business intent that you're pushing down to the network. You're monitoring to see whether that's when that's actually happening. And then you can automate how you remediate that process over time. Basically, if you're not meeting the SLA, what are the changes you need to do through the automation layer to get back to what you need to deliver? On top of this is a new idea that I've been working with a number of customers on, and we call it cloud service management. And the idea here is, how do we make the network kind of a full-class citizen, a first-class citizen, with the rest of kind of the IT operations model? We use the word ITSM sometimes. I don't know that it's exactly right, but the idea is I have a lot of customers that are doing things like they're using ServiceNow for their overall IT services. And if you look at like Cisco internal IT, if I go talk to my networking team, they have a view of, there's a set of services that I'm delivering. I have a branch service, I have a home remote access service, I've got an extranet service, I've got a core network service. Like, these are the ways that they think about that. We want to, and they want to be able to tie into their IT catalog, so that if I have a new employee that comes on, part of what gets provisioned from that catalog is the home remote access service. And it's fully automated across the stack. And then we can integrate with things like cloud service, like ServiceNow, like cost systems. Cisco uses Aptio on the cost side for IT costing, and pull the network directly into that system. So this is an interesting area. It's again, this is something that's relatively new. You'll be looking at us to bring out more and more innovation here through 2017 and beyond. But I think the key here is the network needs to really, because of what we're doing in terms of automation and analytics, we can begin plugging the network into the higher level IT automation stacks that are out there. And all of this is centered around an idea that this should be kind of open and extensible. So we have open APIs at every layer of the stack, and kind of depending on the type of customer you are, you can choose what layer and how much of this you want to consume. So I've got customers that told me to my face, hey, Cisco, your GUIs are a 4-letter word. I want to use the APIs off of your controller, and I'll be happy. I've got customers say, look, I want to plumb straight to the devices. I'm going to build my own automation stack, my own automation capabilities. Leave the rest to me. I have other customers are, hey, look, I don't have the resources to kind of build this out. If you can give me kind of an end-to-end solution, that would be great for me to consume. So the idea here is all this is kind of a, depending on what your needs are, you can kind of consume what you'd like to do. And so a couple examples of customers we're working with. So one is IBM Aviation Services. Marcus, who was on the video, has been a key person we've worked with. He was at Lufthansa. Lufthansa had outsourced their network, but were really unhappy with the degree of visibility they got. So they insourced it. They've used our APIC EM controller to basically manage and monitor their network infrastructure. And he's one of those that said, hey, Jeff, I don't really love your GUIs, so just give me the APIs off that controller. I'm going to build the rest myself. And so what he's done is he actually built a system, a network management system on our controller. All the dots on that map there are his network's locations across the world and airports. So he can kind of immediately drill down to any place in his network, get visibility to what's going on. He's also working with us on this idea of network function virtualization. In each place, he's generally got a number of network appliances. He'd love to consolidate those onto an x86 platform, make that a fully virtual instance. So he's a good example of someone who's kind of taken that open and extensible manner and run with it. Another customer we work with closely is Santana Row. For folks that are from the Silicon Valley, they probably know their large shopping center down in San Jose. They are using the analytics that we're providing from our location-based services to change how they operate with, in terms of looking at traffic flows across their environment. So they've got an app that they provide for guest Wi-Fi service. But the great thing is with Wi-Fi, you don't actually need to connect to the app. We'll know if there's a client there. We can see the pings from the client. And so even if you're not connected to the network, we know that you're there. And so with that, what they're able to do, and this is out-of-the-box functionality that we have as part of our Connect Mobile experience, is they can actually see how customers move through the mall. Like, what are the most likely patterns that they take across as they go through the mall? You can also, in the bottom right, you can provide a heat map. In fact, we can actually show this on a time lapse. So over time, you can see like where are the most visitors, how much time are they spending where, what dwell times look like. They've actually used this to take and work with their tenants around placement and also optimize sometimes rents. Sometimes they're saying, hey, there's tenants that are getting a huge amount of foot traffic. That's actually a more valuable space, so we should raise the rent here. And there's other places where they actually don't have as much foot traffic, and maybe we should lower the rates in those areas. So the core business, the marketing team at Santana Row is using the information coming off their network kind of fundamentally to change how they're operating the business itself. So hopefully that gives you a glimpse into the journey that I think we can go on here. And to me, it kind of comes back to those two principles. One, like the network can provide more value than ever in terms of the core lines of business. And so kind of what I ask of you, kind of each of you, my networking peers, like think about how can the network be most impactful to your business? What are the things that you could do? What are the information sources from the infrastructure that we could provide? How can we really add value to what makes money for your business? And then secondly, what would you want to look at in terms of how you operate the network to make sure you can take advantage of the opportunity at your disposal? So one is around, does the network have the capabilities you think you're going to need in order to make this leap, to make this successful? And also, like, how are you, kind of depending on what type of customer you are, like, do you have the right skills and capabilities within your team to do so? I see folks like Marcus where the great thing is like network capabilities and understanding are really important still. Like he's like, look, I need my CCIEs, I need the folks that understand how the network works, but I want to augment them with people that have programming skills so they can go off and really create some new unique applications on top of my infrastructure. So with that, I hope you'll join us. As I said, I think this is the next few years in networking at the edge in my world. I think are going to be as big a change we've seen in 15 years since PoE. And we want to help you get there, help this journey towards digitization, and really change the way the network is viewed as a critical asset across your company. So with that, thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of the conference, and I'll hopefully see you soon.